Jim. Kathleen had to stop on the way up to get something to drink and use the restroom. She'll be here shortly.
She's making her
Anybody want-
margarita.
Anybody want to take a bathroom break? We all set? We're just waiting on Kathleen and Ethan, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, and the meeting is live streaming currently.
Okay, and I think we're waiting on Kathleen.
Ethan, did you have to send her another new invite?
I did that during the past meeting, so in case she needed it, that as well. She hadn't reached back out to me with any issue.
I didn't have any trouble with the original ones.
Ron, do you want to, at the very least, approve the minutes from the last meeting before we?
I don't want to. No, I don't want to
Nothing
vote
at
on
all?
anything.
Okay.
I don't want to vote on anything at all.
Okay.
Right? Would you agree, Dean?
Yeah, we should wait and then call the meeting to order when Kathleen gets on.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We're just waiting on Kathleen. She'll be here. She doesn't like to miss. Maybe she wants to miss this one though.
So Scott, where is that beach?
That's Sailor's Beach. It's on the old base.
Oh, okay.
If you're walking along the walking path, it's got stairs up and over the railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I know that one. Didn't recognize it.
It was a great place to drink when we were in high school.
Whatever do you mean? You're a drinker?
I was in high school. Of course, that was when the drinking age was 18, so it was
Kathy
legal.
just messaged me and said she can see and hear, but not join or say anything. Oh, there's Kathleen. Are you on your computer?
Kathleen should be joining in a second.
Her microphone's muted. There we go. Kathleen.
Yeah, I can hear.
So she's coming back in. She came in as a panelist, as an attendee, once again, because her original link was not working, or she was not able to find it. One of the issues, but so she should be back in.
There she is.
Yeah.
There you are.
There you are.
You're back. Okay. Good evening. And I'd like to call to order the special April 6, 2020 meeting of the City of Plattsburgh Zoning Board of Appeals. We have all 6 current members available, plus building inspector staff, community development member, and corporation counsel. Is that what it is, right? And we're here this evening as a special meeting to replace that was called to replace the March meeting, which we postponed over concerns with public safety and amongst other things. And seems so long ago, but it hasn't been that long, and we've been under this different reality. So anyway, this meeting originally was to take place to provide the start of public comment periods for several applications and continue them for one. We had decided that previously that this meeting would be informational for each of these items and applications, and that none of them would be voted on this evening. That's at least still the case. Just to be clear, the appeals this evening that we're talking about are number 2234, Stewart Shops, which is a special use permit for adding various exterior items to their site. And I guess expanding a use. The Violas Home for Class B area variances and for a special use permit for the addition, expansion of a use allowed by special permit. Beth Ann O'Neill for a Class B variance to replace the cedar shrubs with a 6-foot vinyl fence. The City of Plattsburgh for 22 Durkee Street. Special use permits to amend the boundaries and planning of the planned unit development, existing one, and special use permit for the use of apartments on the first floor of a multi-story building within a planned unit development. And finally, 2236, City of Plattsburgh, 52 US Oval, Class B area variance request for a 2-lot minor subdivision. Of these, all but 2232, which is Durkee Street, have not had public hearings or public comment periods of any kind. So our original intent was to hear from the applicants and get the start of public comment, both through what was advertised in the legals, and I believe in an article in Saturday's paper discussing the email address to send public comments to. Those would have been read tonight on any of the topics, etc. It has come to light that we can change the procedures for this public comment period and should. We believe that based on various interpretations of public law that's come out in statements by the governor's office and what seems to be good practices, that we can change the way that we hear and receive public comments for all of the projects. But that procedure is not in place tonight. We hope to change the procedure before our regularly scheduled April 20th meeting to allow public comment before the meeting and during the meeting remotely. We hope to, as closely as possible, set up procedures that will mimic, again, as closely as possible, the availability of commenting and hearing comments for both by the applicant and making comments by the public that would closely mimic, as closely as possible, mimic an in-person meeting, even though we're going to be doing this remotely. To that end, we are not going to hear any applications as far as I know. I'm going to put it out to the board to make a motion and discuss it. And then we're going to discuss the implementation of new procedures and how we're going to develop them. But right now we have 6 items on the agenda, 2 of which are for Violas Home and 4 others that have prepared applications for March that were not heard. And I'm going to be looking for the board to take a vote on all of them, and we will list them separately within that, to table all of these applications for a period of 2 weeks at least, which would be to table them for our April 20th, 2020 meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight, which is our regularly scheduled meeting, at which time we will do the process we thought we were going to do tonight, but expanded, and that's going to include, I think, other ways of commenting before, hopefully including video, and during the meeting, so that we can do this better and as we have always done it, as closely as possible. Do I have questions from the board at all about this? Does anybody on the board want to make any comments about this before we start talking about tabling of these and then going to the next business, which is procedurally what we're going to do?
Ron, I just would like to state the obvious
Yeah.
just for 1 second. So this meeting is obviously being conducted remotely, and that is done in conformance with Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, which allows for this essential public business to continue, but it suspends certain components of the open meetings law. So pursuant to that executive order, this meeting is being live streamed on City's YouTube, which allows everyone to have a contemporaneous view. It's also being recorded, and there will be a transcription of this meeting made available to the public. So I just want to confirm that for the public's benefit. I know the board understands that, but I want to relay that.
Okay. The other thing I would say is I don't know how many people are watching, because probably several of you anticipated that we were going to be talking about this and you're going to want to make comments. I will say that because we are tabling, it's my intention, and I believe the board's intention, and if you turned into the 6:30 meeting, you would have heard that discussion, not to table these for 2 weeks and not to limit public comment on these still, not to limit that for 1 week, but all the way up to the next meeting. And it's my feeling it should be right up to the meeting, just like if somebody was to come in and hand us a written comment at the meeting or before the meeting. So I'm going to be asking for that public comment period to stay open from now for 2 weeks, not be limited to 1 week as part of our resolution to table these. But anyway, I'm looking for any other comments from the board before I ask for a motion about that.
Ron, I should have said this earlier.
Yes, go ahead, Dean.
Just to call the meeting to order, we should have a roll call vote. Did I miss that? Just for who is present and not present?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
I may have missed it, but just to formally start the meeting, we should open the meeting and then do a roll call vote of attendees to see who's present and not present.
He didn't do a roll call, but he did mention that all 6 members were present.
Okay, I just, again, I don't be too hyper technical, but just to make sure everyone can be seen and can be heard.
Well,
I think it would be a good
okay.
chance just to go through each,
I did open the meeting in the same normal way I do. Would you like me to do a roll call?
it has been recommended pretty much at every action that we're
problem.
taking. Yep,
Okay. I'm going to do a verbal roll call. Instead, I guess Lisa can do it or I can do it. Does it matter? Okay, then I'm going to do it. So I'm going to ask, Ron Nolland, are you present? Yes. Scott Demain, are you present? Kathleen Inslee, are you present?
Yes.
Elizabeth, are you here?
Yes.
Megan Whedon, are you present?
Here.
Kelly Porter, are you present?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All 6 members of the board are here. Understand, though, that for any motion, we need 5. We have only 5 people voting. There are 2 alternates. Megan and Elizabeth, I think we're going to do this by seniority for right now, which is Megan. Is that okay, Elizabeth? Yeah. So Meg, relative to the tabling motion, you would be the one voting for this because we only can have 5 members voting. Ellie, could you go sit in the audience, please? Okay. So if there aren't questions, I'm looking for a motion regarding the tabling of these appeals, and I'd like somebody that has the agenda in front of them to name the number and name of the appeal as part of that, and also include in that motion that public comments for those will be received up to the time of the April 20th meeting. Who'd like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to table the following action items that are in front of the board. Appeal 2234 Stewart Shop, 2198 Vilas Homes. They have a Class B area variance and a special use permit. The special use permit is on Appeal 2199. Appeal 2235 Beth Ann O'Neill for a Class B variance. 2232 City of Plattsburgh for a special use permit and a special use permit for use of an apartment on the first floor. And 2236 City of Plattsburgh at 52 US Oval. I would move that we table these at least until our next meeting, and that the public comment period be open until our next meeting.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that. Just mention that the next meeting is April 20th, correct?
Okay. We've talked about doing votes through the chat feature, but normally when we postpone meetings for because we don't have enough board members or on our behalf or on applicant's behalf, we don't do it that way. Do people want to do it with a chat? Or do they want, what we could do is do a show of hands and then Lisa can poll us. I think a show of hands is adequate. Do you agree, Dean? Okay, so all in favor of Scott's motion, please raise your hand on screen. Okay, so we have 5 votes. Lisa, do you want to poll us?
Yep. So Kelly Porter,
Yes.
Kathleen Inslee,
Yes.
Megan Whedon,
Yes.
Scott Demain,
Yes.
Ron Nold.
Yes. So we have table. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, Dean, we can. Okay, so we have now tabled the meetings and kept the public comment period open until the time of the next meeting, at which point there will be public comments during the meeting. Does everybody agree that that's what we've done?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So our next and only other order of business, I believe at this time, is to discuss what we want to see as part of these procedures so that the city can start to get them set up for public hearing. And how we're going to work that. We want to do this as a public record about who's going to represent the board, et cetera. So I guess what I would say, I'm going to start it by saying that it is our goal to run our meetings in the same way we would run them if they were in-person meetings. And because we're hampered by the remote meeting opportunity only, that we need to make that mimic as much as we can. And I think we can do it pretty effectively, how our regular meetings go. So I personally would like to see comments, the ability for the public and how they're checked in and put into a line to make the comments is no different in some ways than what we would do at a normal meeting. I'd like to make sure that the public can comment during the meeting, up to the meeting besides, and that they can prepare written statements, diagrams, and frankly, if they can't be at the meeting or don't have the ability to do that remotely, they have a phone or some other way that they can record a video and say their piece. I'd ask them to keep it. We might want to set a time limit of no more than so much per speech. And that all written comments that we get, and we just got something today, as a matter of fact, from one of the applicants, so right before a meeting, that all the, as soon as possible, that they're given to the building inspector's office. The building inspector's office gets them all to us, whether it's purely by email. I don't, we're remote. I suppose that we can have a whole list of all of these sent as one email with a bunch of attachments, or however we want to do that, because I think that's going to be the way to keep it most current. And certainly if we have video presentations. I believe the Community Development Office also mentioned today that they might want to set up a phone line for people that aren't necessarily able to create videos and or email that would be advertised, that people could leave voicemails to on, didn't even mention that today, I believe, Dean, in our meeting. So that, even that would be helpful. And also, I guess the important thing for me is that the information is gotten out to the public as soon as possible, so everybody has time to prepare, and the applicants, so that they have time to prepare. So that's I don't know what else other people want to do. I'd like to ask for comments and suggestions.
I like the idea that they can comment during the meeting. The mention about what Albany does, that they have to sign up. I think people should be able to, on the fly, ask and speak their piece when the meeting is going on, because stuff may be presented that they haven't seen or didn't understand. The applicant describes it, and then they say, oh, well, what about this or what about that?
Ron, you're muted.
Could everybody, Kelly include, yeah, is everybody muted except me? Okay, and that's what we'll do. And I guess we're gonna do that during the meeting in general, correct? I'm looking for other comments from anybody else. Thanks. Okay, does anybody else have any comments regarding this process? The only other thing if not, I'd like to discuss the actual procedure, which is, I'm proposing that Kathleen and I act as representatives for the zoning board with the city as we discuss procedures and bring constant updates to you for your comments and input. Does anybody have any, is that okay?
Fine with me.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
It looks like Megan had a question about the amount of attendees that Zoom can support. I want to say it's around 1,000 or 1,500 people could all attend, not necessarily be panelists. That would be unwieldy. But as far as observers, the cap is very high. Ethan, do you have that number offhand?
The amount of observers on, obviously, if people are only trying to watch, there's the YouTube. If they're trying to become attendees and watch, right now with the model that the Community Development Office and the Building Inspector's Office are paying for, allows up to 100 attendees at one time. So obviously, based on the general size and scope of the public meetings that we've been having, that we feel that should suffice. If there's any issues or concerns with that, we can always address that.
So that would mean attendees being people that would in some way participate or make a comment known?
Yes, exactly. It would be a member of the public. So they would sign up, they would have a link, whether it's through they use, their phone, their laptop, computer to go and see the stream, much like when you logged in, Kathleen, you aren't allowed to speak or seen, but once the host and once the board opens up public comment, we can allow everyone in that line to say their piece.
Is
And that,
sorry, am I interrupting you?
no, you can go.
So it seems like the best idea is to, I mean, what do you foresee? I guess I'll ask you, since you'd be managing this, what do you foresee as far as the timing, and pardon me for the cat in the background, if you can hear that. What do you foresee being the timing of when people would sign up for receipt of that invitation? Is that something that you would want done ahead of time? Is that something you could do on the fly during the meeting?
So based on Scott's comment and assuming that the rest of the board feels that way, what can happen is that link is just going to be public. It can be made on whether it's the city's website, advertising through the Press Republican and other means. So they don't need a specific email. It would just be one link, and they would be able to use that or a phone number to call into the meeting. And so that would just go wherever it needed to go.
And if that number, I mean, it's a pretty big number, but let's say, just for example, for argument's sake, that got maxed out.
Hey, Ethan,
Yes, Ron.
how about community development mentions that they're going to have this and ask, and that they're going to have a test run so that people can try it before the meeting. And you pick a day and you say, we're going to try this out. And then that way you'll understand the complications that might arise with 20 or 200 or 40 or whatever it is, people trying to get on into this meeting and start to help guide you as to how to handle the public trying to do this. I'm thinking that instead of just waiting for the meeting, if you have a test day where you say, look, we want you to help us, public, help us make your job, help us make it easier for you to communicate with the board. Come on and test it with us.
I think that could be a great idea. So I'll talk to our team here, and I don't see why if all this, we can't set something up like that.
And I think it'd help everybody. It'd help you guys understand, whoa, we didn't know this was going to be a problem. So that's something that once you get it, it's going to be a Zoom meeting. I think that you say, we're going to be testing it out. Please help us help you.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
are the board's thoughts about having a sign up sheet some reasonable time prior to the meeting to allow us to kind of create a list of the likely speakers? Does that sound appropriate or not?
Say it again, Dean, I'm sorry.
So if we have, obviously we'll have written comment available to the public, and then there might be some mechanism for them to submit voicemails or video files. But as far as the live public comment portion during the Zoom meeting, is the board comfortable with requiring some kind of sign up sheet that you have to send an email some reasonable time prior to the meeting to raise your hand and say, put me on that list. And then during the meeting, the host can then run through that list.
I believe that that's probably because normally, let's think about it. Normally during a meeting, a whole bunch of people are there and they all want to talk and they raise their hands and I say, you. I can't do that because I can't see them. I would say that the only way is for there to be a sign up list and people can wait for their opportunity to speak. And I think that we need to pick a number, and it's not 30 seconds. And I don't think it's 5 minutes either. I think if we have 20 people or 30 people wanting to speak, it will, maybe people can concentrate. And I'm talking to the public that might be watching now too, can concentrate on what they really want to say. And we've all had comments, all kinds of comments from every meeting where people just go on and on. So and maybe it's 5, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4 minutes, but a maximum time that somebody can speak also, and work within that. I would think that if there's something really compelling, I'm not going to sit with an egg timer or anything. frankly. But if there's something really compelling, we as a board can say, wait, we want to hear more about this. And if we really want to waive that rule. But that in general, the public comment should be a list that you get on in a certain order. And that there's a limit as to how long people can speak, not because we're trying to limit what they say, but because we're trying to make sure that as many people as possible get heard without us being there till 2 a.m.
One important point too is that we've already, during the February meeting, this was open to the public in City Hall and we received a slew of comments. So one would hope that there would be as limited repetition as possible. If there's something new, perfect. But if it's the same thing that was said previously, that comment's already been stated.
Mhm.
The same comment. I know people feel very strongly about this one of the topics we were going to discuss tonight, one of the items, but my feeling is if you've made your point or points in a previous meeting and they're not really new or different, then I would encourage people to think about that, whether they really have something different to say before they come up for comment.
Yes, I unmuted. Are there any other comments from the board about helping to develop this process and these procedures?
Ethan, can you see the chat feature?
Say it again.
I'm asking Ethan if you can see the chat feature right now. Looks like it looks like Elizabeth had a question.
So I'm just curious if Zoom has a video or some kind of feature that explains to people how to use it, because I think it may not be obvious to all attendees who want to comment how to participate.
That's a great point. I think Zoom has multiple videos, multiple support pages for just, the simple things like logging into a meeting, using the call-in feature, to the more advanced settings. So once the boards come up with their procedures and how they want all the comments to operate, when we do go through that advertising, we can attach those links. People can use those as like a resource guide of if they're having any issues.
Okay.
So can I make a comment? So the questions that just are coming up now that Elizabeth asked, I mean, that from what I understand is that's coming from comments that are popping up now on this stream, correct? Is that what I'm getting from you guys? Is that where we, and that raises a question for me is, can someone keep an eye on that during our actual meeting if there, or are there going to be comments permitted during our stream of the meeting in 2 weeks or whenever we have the meeting that we're going to have this public comment available at? Is there someone who can keep an eye on that so that and should that be part of our procedure as well to answer the questions that come up in comments through YouTube?
Just my 2 cents. I just understanding we are operating with this remote strategies. We don't want to go create extra levels of participation that aren't typical during a regular board meeting. So, if you're doing a normal agenda item and you have, you wouldn't want people in the public raising their hand and interrupting. I think you'd want to confine them to the appropriate time for them to speak and not have a running ability to make comments during, at any time.
I guess I was
Go
suggesting
ahead,
that it's just another way for us to get commentary or questions from people, especially if they are having trouble with Zoom. This is kind of a follow-up to Elizabeth's question. If they have maybe people aren't going to realistically go and do a Zoom tutorial before they try to comment. So to me, just another way of, I'm not saying we have to answer every single comment. If there's somebody wants to be heard on something or has a question, it was just a thought that might be one way they're trying to communicate it. Maybe that could lead into someone kind of guiding them through the process. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, but I don't want to limit people who are using that as their only way of communicating and being heard publicly.
Well, the point though is that that live stream is there at all of our other meetings, and we've never looked at the comments made during the live stream.
But the difference being that if people wanted to be present, physically present and comment in the past, they could, whereas now they can't.
Agreed. We'll leave that to the our team members that are going to decide how this works.
The only reason I brought up the live comments going on right now is just that people don't quite understand how, if they're sitting at home, how they can call in or be seen on this. You know, that's just the most common kind of theme in the comments right now. And I just think we should make that clear to folks as our plan right now. Maybe that'll change or evolve in some way, but so I don't know if that would be Ethan.
So once again, I guess now that we're kind of focusing this more to the people who are watching YouTube stream with considerations is once the boards make up their temporary procedures and how they would like to move forward, depending on whether they want to sign up list, they want people to sign up, you know, the day before, if the board decides they want people to be able to speak at any point of the meeting. So once again, it's all discretion of the board. I'm going to share the screen back to that Word document just to show an example of what would be potentially posted online as for people to sign up as attendees. So it'll be a couple seconds once again. So thank you for everyone bearing with me. Let me know when you guys see it. And once again, the people at home should see this same document as well.
We got it, Ethan.
So essentially, this would be some form, this link right here. That would be a link that anyone would be able to click it. It would automatically open up Zoom. People with that link would, as you see written down here, they would be able to see and hear the discussion of the meeting. It's very similar to watching in a live stream, but they would be muted and unable to share their video or a chat. However, that being an attendee would set up essentially a queue for speaking. So people as an attendee have the ability to use the raise the hand function and other ways however the board decides they want to set up that line. But the raise the hand function would allow the host and everyone on this meeting to see who's waiting in line. And if the board opened up the public comment for item A, the host, as being me, would be able to go in that line, in that queue of people waiting to make the comment on that item, allow them to speak and and if they have the capability to also allow their video to be present as well. Once again, it's the board's discretion if they just want audio or if they want video and audio. But that's essentially how it would go. It would be a very simple link, or it would be a phone number. Once we move forward, we'll talk about advertising. Any Zoom tutorials. There's simple 2-minute videos to show people how they could possibly click on the link if they have any issues. So we showed in that pre-meeting, we showed an example with Kyle of being able to send him back and forth from being a panelist to an attendee. And that's what we would essentially, one of the functions that we would be able to do here. So if we could, I don't know if you guys want another test run of that as an example. I know Kyle is still on this call, or if we just want to discuss that at a later time. But essentially, attendees will have the ability to, once chosen by the host, to speak based on the allotted time that the board gives them, and then to leave and allow the next person to speak. one at a time.
Okay. I think that all of this over the next little bit's gonna have to get this, oh, am I muted? No. Gonna have to get discussed, how we're gonna set it up for the public, which I think is harder than setting it up for us, and how we can make sure that they're able to be, all of them are heard, but that we can be efficient about it. So I think that we should all think about this, send Kathleen and me any suggestions, questions, comments about this that we can bring to community development, Dean, and whoever in IT is going to be developing this, etc., and that we can come up with a procedure that meets everybody's requirements and wish list. Does anybody have anything else on this?
And just to be clear, as far as that process, Ron, so any board member will speak or address any concerns or criticisms to Ron or Kathleen, and then you two will be the leaders or the liaisons with the community development office and myself, so that we will then put those to paper as far as that procedures, and hopefully that addresses the whole board. But we're not going to be coming back on April 20th or the next meeting and voting on these procedures. We'll use your authority as chair to represent the interest and the consensus of your board.
Yes, we can poll the members of the board separately during the next little bit of time, I would think, to say that procedurally this is okay. I don't, at least to me, that seems to make sense. This isn't about a specific application or any specific business of the board so much as in these emergency times, how we react to the only opportunities we have and methods to run a meeting. So I think unless anybody has a problem with it, and certainly if anybody does, they can speak up or say they're not happy with it, and hopefully we'll get this together. Get the, it needs to be together, I would say, by next Monday, so that you have all of next week for the public to be informed, for a test run to be set up, everything like that, if we're expecting to use this procedure, these procedures at the 420 meeting. So that's sort of the timeline. We have to have this ready and agreed to by all the board members in a week. Okay? We're not going to vote on any applications. They're all tabled. I don't think we're going to even vote on minutes or any other business. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes? Okay. If not, then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Lizzie? Who wants to do that?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Seconded? All in favor? Aye. You can
Aye.
vote on this if you want. Okay. The special.
Just to do that roll call, Ron,
4/6/20 meeting.
we should do that roll call.
What's that? A roll call? Yeah, sure. Lisa?
Okay, Megan Whedon,
Yes.
Scott Demain,
Yes.
Kathleen Ensley,
Yes.
Ellie Porter,
Yes.
and Elizabeth Gent.
Yes.
Very good. That was 5 yes votes. Meeting is adjourned.